does it, Mel? You look great. Getting all that vitamin D, lucky thing.
Absolutely, that is definitely the way to go, I tell you what. So how have things been over in France? And I believe that you're feeling a little stressed. What's going on?
Oh, I was just so excited because tomorrow the whole family was going to Madrid to see Cassie because she's been studying there and none of us have been to visit her. We go to Paris all the time, but Madrid is just a bit of a schlep to get to. And of course, France, being France, is having a nationwide strike tomorrow. So,
oh, no.
So they've just changed my flight to Saturday night, and I leave Sunday morning. So yes, I have to go and try and sort that out. Maybe jump on a train. I don't know. We've been looking forward to this for months. So it's.
Well, I hope you managed to get it right. I mean, at least it's easier to do that there than it is a lot of the time down here in darkest Africa.
I don't know, but it's just a reminder that we struggle here too. And when the French strike, they strike, you know.
Well, at least you don't have tigers roaming the streets.
Oh, shame though. But did you hear this morning, that's why I was a little late, that actually the tiger died last night.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I think that
really tragic.
What I want to know is, what was there a tiger living on a small holding in the middle of nowhere? I mean, really, why is there a tiger? And you know what? The way I see it, Jenny, quite frankly, I know it's becoming a bit of a non-story here, but my thought on it is we have enough cougars roaming the streets of Johannesburg to keep that going all the time, so we're really not worried about it. But what actually happened? Where did it come from?
Well, actually, you know, Carte Blanche did a show just in October about this rise in tigers in Gauteng. And quite a few areas where people were kind of walking their tigers like they were walking their dog. And so there were people who had been raising concerns. This particular owner, you know, if it was on a private property, everybody who's ever been on his property said the love and care, you know, has just been amazing for these two tigers. And it was sabotage, you know, somebody cut the wires apparently of the fence, and so the two tigers, a male and a female, escaped. They managed to get the male almost immediately, but the female had last night on Tuesday night, in the early hours of Wednesday morning, had gone into close to 6 homes on one of the farms and killed a domestic animal. And obviously everybody was really scared, and because it was so close to all these people, they couldn't dart it. You know, they tried to euthanize it, but they couldn't use the dart, and so instead the tiger is now deceased. So it's a tragic outcome for everyone.
That really isn't cool. Anyway, so please, you know, tigers don't belong in South Africa.
No,
Stop
but you know,
growing them.
interestingly, Melanie, there's a South Africa supplies something like 10 to 20% of the world's tigers to zoos because there's so much breeding going on in South Africa of tigers. So it's really funny how we all grew up, you know, laughing at foreigners saying there aren't tigers in Africa. And
there are a lot.
Now there are.
Yeah. Oh, but still, you know, unless you have it in a place where it's actually safe to have it, don't do it. Anyway.
And also such a huge shout out to the community who all came together, the police, the drone people. You know, it was incredible. I think another kind of South African problem, there wasn't any water around, so there was another company that was donating water. So the community was incredible.
Now they need to do the same thing when it comes to lost people. That would be good. Anyway, what have you got in the way of news for expats this week?
For South Africans overseas who like watching TV, there's 2 shows worth watching right now to keep you connected with South Africa, apart from, of course, Showmax. There is, in the Netherlands, there's a show that's been on for years called Wie is die Mol, and this year they are in Cape Town, they're in South Africa, and the South African Youth Choir is featured.
Oh, okay. The South African Youth Choir, not in Louisville. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's pretty cool. And then if you're in England and many of the countries who syndicate it, including in South Africa, the Winter Love Island is being filmed in South Africa right now. I think it started last night or the night before in England. And they're filming at the most exquisite villa. It is called Ludus Magnus.
Mm-hmm.
Does that ring a bell for you?
Nope.
It's where the gladiators were trained in Roman times. But obviously not in South Africa. But it's named after that. But so there'll be a lot of sport in this season of Love Island. But the villa is magnificent. It's in Franschhoek. The views are spectacular. So even if you don't want to look at the hot bodies, you can just look at the beautiful, beautiful South African views.
But if it's called Love Island, why is it not on an island?
I think it is metaphorical, kind of, you're
you're
in an
marooned.
island cut off. Yeah, there we go, yes.
Sorry, not many people would have heard my eyes rolling at the beginning of that whole thing, but just in case you didn't, there we go.
I heard loud and clear.
Okay. And what is this Free to Be South Africa?
There's a great competition on for everyone. So if you're in South Africa, you've probably got the most chance. But you can also enter this competition if you're outside South Africa. And what it is SATSA. They are the voice of inbound tourism to South Africa. They've got this campaign going because South Africa's got so many wonderful freedoms. From actual legislation to just wide open spaces, everything. So they are celebrating that and bringing it to the awareness of the world. So post your photos, your videos to an Instagram story, hashtag Free to Be South Africa, and tag SATSA. Okay. And not only will you be doing a wonderful thing for South Africa, but you could be in for a chance of winning 2 nights at Table Bay, which is divine, or high tea at the Oyster Box in Umhlanga Rocks, all kinds of prizes.
Oh, okay. I think I might have a look at that myself. Oh, and just talking about stuff that's going on in South Africa, a couple of hours ago, as we're speaking now, do you remember Angus Begg, the journalist?
Angus?
He wrote Angus Begg, B-E-G-G. So he's a journalist, and he wrote this piece on Facebook this morning, which I thought was a very well thought out and well written piece. I will tag you on it. Maybe other people can go and have a read as well. It's a thought-provoking piece, but not in a negative way, about what's happening in South Africa. So I found that quite kind of enlightening in a way.
Oh, I would love to read that, because we posted this week a post by Sandra Jacobs with her permission and everything, and we've published her before because she lost some of her closest family members who moved abroad. So she's written about it before, but she also was sitting up late at night going through Facebook, and she was seeing a lot of her friends kind of making plans of, I've had enough, and I want to move abroad. This is just too much now with the load shedding, the electricity hike in rates, blah, 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 blah. And so she wrote this, and what I liked about it is she said, just be kind to yourself. If you are going to move, don't feel the guilt. Just be kind. Just be kind to everyone. Be kind to yourself. And it sparked a lot of conversation. So for anybody who's struggling with what to do, what not to do, it's really worth reading on our Facebook page the comments from expats, from people who've moved back to South Africa. The same old, the grass isn't greener. But there's a range of opinions. People who are so happy they made the move, and people who are delighted to have made the move back to South Africa, where there's the magic, So it's kind of uplifting, and just for everybody to support each other in whatever their decision is, because what's right for one person is not necessarily right for another.
Well, one thing, and I'm sure you'll agree with me on this, one of the reasons why I would leave this country, but I'm sure it's just as bad in so many other countries around the world, is the way that people drive. Oh,
I knew you would say that.
Yeah. And especially when there are no lights working. Literally, on my way from my house to the podcast studio, there was not one traffic light on.
Oh, that's
And you know that
scary.
people, especially in Johannesburg, they just have no clue. They just want to go fast. They just go. They don't even slow down a lot of the time when there's a robot out. Sorry, for those of you who've forgotten what a robot is, we mean a traffic light. Okay.
But you know, Mel, you saying that reminds me that I remember when I worked at Thompson's in Randburg, the lights used to often be out then as well, because I remember there was kind of a rule of what to do when the lights went out.
Well, there are rules, but you know, this is Africa, so of course nobody follows them. Anyway, let's get on to more pleasant things. All right, so what else have you got in the way of news? I know we mentioned Kirsten Landman last week, and of course, I'm like one of the biggest Dakar fans, and my bucket list item is definitely to race a truck in the Dakar. I've got
I'll
to do
come
that.
support you.
Yeah, and why don't you come and sit there and go like this with me as well? I love it.
In the desert. Wasn't that wonderful? And South Africans did so well this year. But what I love the most is that it seems that just to finish is the win.
Yeah.
Like you didn't even have to come first. But
No,
there
it was
were
such a hard one this year.
Yeah, the weather was just terrible. So we're really proud of South African expat Michael Dougherty, who he lives in Dubai, and this was his first one, and he won top rookie of this year's Dakar.
And then of course we had our two South Africans in the top 5,
yes,
4th and 5th with Khanil
Yeah.
and Hannes. And then, of course, Brian Baragwana slipped out of the top because he was running at about 7 or 8 most of the time. We had a problem, but he still came in towing somebody across the finish line with him, which I thought was absolutely brilliant.
That was team spirit. That was so beautiful. It makes me cry. And then Kirsten, of course, like you mentioned, she was the only female in that class, which was the most difficult class.
Yeah, no, she's brilliant.
And she completed. And Charon Moore actually won his original class.
Yeah, originals, yeah. They had so many different classes that they were actually putting out this year, because usually you'd only see like cars, sometimes quads, motorbikes obviously always come up first, and trucks. And now this year they had not proformers, what are they called? Prototypes.
Yeah.
Prototypes. They had classics, which were all the cars before 1989, which was lovely to see some of the older vehicles. Really sad, of course, that the top guys that were in the Audis didn't complete, which was sad. Peter Hansel and what's his name? His son races in Formula.
But the great thing is that South African-built Toyota
Came first and second, yeah. First 3, hey. Yeah.
I think it was, or was it first, 4th, and 5th? But
Well,
anyway,
they came in the top
3
section,
in the
yeah.
top, just amazing.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Talking about people winning, how did Miss South Africa do?
You know, she did really well. She made it into, so you go to the top 16, and then, is it the top 8 or the top 5 that they announced next? Anyway, she made it into the top 16. She was just delightful. She remembered how, as a kid, she was just a barefoot kid on dust roads in Limpopo, and there she was now in the US on stage in such a sophisticated environment, and just humble and grateful, and everybody was so proud of her. She thinks that the Miss Universe is going to do super well. Who was an American, Miss America won, and she can't wait to get back to South Africa and be promoting her education campaign to help kids get educated. So I think she's going to do great things, and I think that she will go into Miss World as well. So perhaps she could win that. She's certainly deserving. She's beautiful.
Oh, well, big ups to her. Okay, so I'm always looking for local good news. What has come up on your side? Because I sit here and I'm saying everybody's so miserable, and I've actually just been saying to people, you know what? There's nothing we can do about it. And then it just reminded me yesterday of how lucky we are with a friend of mine who has one of her late mother's domestic, who she's still looking after, and how she'd been going out to this hospital in her area and getting nowhere. And unfortunately, because of the mismanagement of the hospitals and the lack of care and the lack of respect that the people have at those hospitals and clinics for the majority of the people who are reliant on that for health care, she now has just been diagnosed with, I think, bladder cancer. And it's too late to do anything about it. So, you know, I mean, we must bear a thought that so many of us are just so lucky. And especially for those people who have managed to, who have got the money to go off grid and who have got generators or solar or inverters or whatever, spare a thought for the people out there that don't have any of that and don't have access to decent health care, don't have money to go to a dentist when they're in pain. So, you know, think about the things that you should be thanking yourself or thanking the universe for, instead of moaning all the time. I'm tired of moaning people.
And kind of support where you can. We just got a story in now from Jacaranda FM, who, you know, they have their Good Morning Angels Fund, and they've just told us that they are giving 200,000 to the people, you know, because there were people in the hospital when there was that Boksburg explosion on Christmas Eve with the tanker that exploded underneath that low bridge.
The low bridge, yeah.
Yeah, a shame, 40 people, the death toll now. So they are donating 200,000, 100,000 towards Hope SA Foundation, which does so much good, and it has been helping with victims. And then they're giving 50,000 each to two of the families. One family lost two or three members, I think husband, wife, and sister-in-law, and the other family lost 4 children. And so they will get 50,000 each to help them in these devastating times. But it's still good to see the people coming together.
But there's a lot of good people there. I mean, I just think about, you know, the telethon, which Hot 1027 puts on every single year, which anybody from anywhere in the world can support as well. They do it, I think it's around about October. And this last year, I think they raised over 8 million rand. I can't remember. We have talked about it before. So the fact that there are these community radio stations, all smaller parochial radio stations who are doing good and looking after their parishes as well. My hat's off to all of them and to all of those DJs who do all of this great work.
Yeah, so divine. And also to all the firefighters. There was, because it's firefighting season, there was a huge sudden fire on Boys Drive, which is quite famous for its magnificent views. Yeah, and they put out that fire pretty quickly, as it was like encroaching. Yeah.
At least they have fire engines in Cape Town. I mean, I think at the last count we only had like 3 working ones for the whole of Joburg, but it was good news and very heartening to see that the DA mayor, and I can't remember who the other lady is, they have now started with the requisitioning and finding of more fire engines and things for Joburg. So,
oh, great. And I also saw at least 3 trains have started again as well. So
yeah,
onwards and upwards.
Yes, and I just think we have to keep on going, just chugging ahead nicely, yeah.
And inspiring literary stuff is happening in Simonstown. They are launching what's going to be an annual book festival, and I think that you should be going because your friend Justin Fox is going to be there.
Yeah, I was just looking at that and just thinking, I'm trying to get him to do a podcast with me, but he said, no, he's not really happy about speaking on there.
Oh,
which
really?
Is yeah, so, but there's just so, he's just really, the books that he's put out, if any of you have not heard of Justin Fox, he's the late Rebel Fox, is one of his children, this brother of Greta Fox. Okay, of course, Rebel Fox was one of the great architects here in South Africa. But what Justin did, he was the editor of Getaway magazine for, I think it was Getaway?
Yeah.
For quite a while.
Yeah.
He takes the most amazing pictures, and now he's written these books, and they're very, very interesting books as well.
And they are historical kind of
novels,
historical
novels.
They are based around Simonstown. And this book festival that's getting launched is apparently going to be the biggest and the best. It's in Simonstown. Unbelievably, Nobel laureate J.M. Coetzee is going to be there. Ankie Kroch, yeah, she's just such an amazing writer as well. Damon Galgut, of course, who's like won awards all over the world. Yeah. So and heaps of others. I went through the whole list. It's just incredible.
Send it to me. I will make a plan to get to Cape Town. I'll wrangle my brother.
They're launching it on February 10 at the St. Francis Anglican Church, but the actual festival is in March. So, so you'll have
good time to go to Cape Town. Great time to go to Cape Town.
Perfect. Another lovely story also from Cape Town is there's this kid, Siyabonga, who is at Pinelands Primary, and he's just a real hard worker and really smart, and has been doing so well, but his parents are really struggling financially. And one of his former teachers, who has just watched and been so inspired by him, has started a crowdfunding campaign for him to get the education that he deserves, which is
sweet.
I mean, I love those kind of teachers that just stay with
Well
you
done
for
to
life.
her. Yes.
Yeah.
And I see you've got another Cape Town story. What is it with Cape Town this week, huh?
I know. But, they are trying that a little harder. Like, Cyril Ramaphosa has cancelled going to Davos in order to...
As he should.
the World Economic Forum, to deal with load shedding. But at least in Cape Town, they are keeping that load shedding just down a notch. They released all their figures, and if you compare December 2022 to December 2019, there is a 95% recovery, which is fabulous.
That's amazing.
So
That's
pre
brilliant.
and post pandemic. I think it's almost 300,000. It's 267,000 or something, and that the passengers through Cape Town International Airport, and those are the people flying in and out. So they are definitely tourists, not people coming home or whatever.
So that's not even taking into account how many people are coming in through Johannesburg either.
Exactly. So it's phenomenal. And they actually, Wesgro says that they're expecting this year not just recovery, but actual growth.
Big growth.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, so now we get on to the entertainment stuff, which I'm like, as you said earlier, Showmax. Yeah, I'm now watching season 4 of, what's it called? New Amsterdam. It's become a little bit preachy and kind of very woke, and I get a bit irritated with him every now and then because he's always going off on these missions.
But
he's even worse now because every single week there's a message, and I'm sitting here and thinking, okay, why don't we just have one without the message about global warming and about Native Americans, and it would be nice to have something which is not so preachy. But I still do enjoy it, and because during load shedding, all I do is when we do have that bit of power, I download everything onto my smartphone so I can watch it when we've got no power, which is great.
You're as smart as your smartphone, Mel. And
no, I call it a stupid phone, so don't be like saying I'm anything like a phone.
Okay.
I've got more knowledge in here than my phone has.
Oh, me too. You know what happened? We were talking about Charlize Theron last week.
Yes.
And her toilet video, and she had also done the
sex tape.
Sex tape, yes. So Google sends me a message, sends SA people a message saying, this page goes against our community standards, blah, 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 blah. So I asked them to please review it, because you can ask them to review. I asked them to review it, and I make sure this time that it says in huge bold letters, this tape is an April Fool's joke, it's fake, it's not really a sex tape. I say it all. They did it again. So in other words, it's a computer that's checking, and obviously the computer picks up the word sex.
Yeah.
And
no, the AIs and the bots and everything, I don't know. People were trying to explain that to me, and I'm like, you know what, I have enough stuff happening in here to worry about that stuff. It's just they're gathering all this information, and so when they can take over the world, I think it's just a huge AI plot. No, I'm joking. I'm not that kind of person.
And
all right,
you're not. And now, talking about loud messages, I went to see Babylon last night, which is coming out in South Africa this weekend.
Yeah.
And with Brad Pitt and Margot Robbie.
Okay.
And it has a very loud message, and I thought of you, and I thought, I don't think you should go see it. The message is basically how debauched Hollywood was in the early days, and how it then became very narrow-minded almost. But in order to express how debauched it was, the message is so loud. There's a lot of debauchery.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you saying I'm a prude, Jenny?
Well, when I told you to watch
Sex in Afrikaans. No, but that was different.
It was just like one of the top 5 most popular shows.
I just couldn't. I'm sorry. I sat there and it was just like, no, Bru, I can't do this. Wena. That's not what I mean.
I don't think you can do Babylon.
So I haven't watched the last episode of Donkerbos yet. That's on my list for today because it came out last night. They're going to have to do more because really I cannot stop raving about this show, and I keep telling everybody about it, and they're like, yeah, but it's South African stuff. I'm like, no, this is not like South African stuff. I don't know. No, it's so good.
Absolutely international. It is so in a class of its own.
It's phenomenal.
And I really envy anybody who starts watching it now. And remember, if you're overseas, you can watch it unless you're in the United States or Canada. It's on Showmax International for everyone else. And I envy them because they can now binge the whole thing, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas we had to wait. I hate the waiting.
Yeah, no, it's been good though, because it's like, I'm impatient. I can't wait for it to get the next one. And then I see that Dumb season 2 is coming up as well in February.
Yes, so we've got the trailer on sapeople.com right now. It looks like it's going to be just as good, if not better, than season 1. Season 1 was one of the top 10 most watched shows in 2021, and this is available to South Africans abroad as well. So,
I don't watch anything horror, so I won't be watching that.
Okay. I know, it's funny. I was watching the trailer as well, and I was loving it until it got really horrific. But then I thought, well, this is what everybody else loves, Yeah,
the younger generation, they love horror movies. I decided at the age of 12 I didn't like horror movies, and I wasn't going to watch them anymore. And that was that. Yeah, okay. So, then, what have you got coming up for the news that's coming up for sapeople.com next week?
Well, it's the Grammys soon on February the 5th, and we're going to have Trevor Noah, we've already spoken about, is going to be hosting the evening, and there are going to be some South Africans there for Best Global Music Performance. Your friend Walter
Kellerman.
Yeah, always say it.
What happened to your South African accent, dude? Voter. Say voter.
Voter. Yeah.
Okay, voter, but roll your R at the end.
Okay. Well, Zakes Bantwini is also one of the musicians involved in that album. And so we're going to have an interview with him coming up this week.
Excellent.
Heading off to LA to the Grammys.
Brilliant. Okay, well, that's the stuff that we have. Of course, as always, we implore you to send us your good news stories, okay? And, of course, try and keep a smile on your dial because, everything is still beautiful here in South Africa. We just have to go and look for it instead of just getting hung down and dragged down. And if you have so much going for yourself, please remember just to try and share just that little bit with other people and share with us on sapeople.com because we like it. Jenni Fella, have a fantastic week and we'll catch up with you again next week.
Another production from Solid Gold Podcasts.